News coming out of the NBA. This one is a surprise and a shock. Myles Turner agreeing to a 4-year, $107 million deal to join the Milwaukee Bucks. That, according to ESPN, that ends the run of what was a long career for Turner. All 10 of his NBA seasons were played with the Pacers. Played the 6 most games in Pacers history with them, and just had a deep run all the way to the NBA Finals in Indiana. But now he heads to different pastures in Milwaukee as things are getting crazy out here in free agency period of the NBA. Ashley Nicole Moss here with us. And Ashley, before we even dive fully into this Myles Turner news, now the reports are that the Bucks are waiving Damian Lillard, who's, of course, rehabbing that Achilles injury that he tore just this past season. A lot of money owed to him. They'll have to figure out that money situation. So first, which way do you want to take this? Are you more shocked with the Myles Turner news or the Dame time?
I think all of it, and I want to get this right because we're breaking this down as it's happening. And they are waiving Damian Lillard and stretching the remaining $113 million of his contract in order to acquire Myles Turner. So obviously Lillard's last 2 seasons with Milwaukee, it comes to the end as he rehabilitates that torn Achilles tendon. But this is actually really crazy because we anticipated maybe the movement coming from Giannis because the Bucks were not going to make any moves and didn't have the capital to make moves. Myles Turner kind of came out of left field because I was under the impression, most of us were under the impression, he was absolutely going to re-sign with the Indiana Pacers, especially after losing Tyrese Halliburton. It is almost just dire to have a player of Myles Turner's caliber. When you talk about what he did, he's coming off of a stellar season, averaging almost 16 points on 48, 40, and 77 splits, 6.5 rebounds, 2 blocks, 1.5 assists in about 30 minutes of play. And not only that, the biggest thing is the Pacers' opponents shot 57.7% at the basket with Myles Turner defending this season. So a phenomenal defender can also give you that offensive punch. And to lose a player like that and also be without Tyrese Halliburton, you kind of wonder who they're going to go after at that position. There's only a few guys that are remaining. You have DeAndre Ayton, who the Lakers desperately need. We talked about Al Horford earlier today, your Gator boy, on Morning Buzz. It's starting to get very thin at an already thin position of the center. And if you're the Lakers, now you're scrambling because Myles Turner completely threw this entire situation in disarray, because you would have to think the Indiana Pacers are now looking at DeAndre Ayton. It is going to be a battle, I feel like, for him between the Pacers and the Lakers, unless, which I don't think the Pacers are doing, unless they think this is going to be a wash season because they won't have Tyrese Halliburton. Because I will say, the interesting piece of information was this. When the report came out that Myles Turner was signing with the Bucks, the follow-up tweet from Shams was basically that he made it clear he wanted to return to Indiana. So something got lost in translation here.
Yeah, I wonder then what the motivation is for Turner to leave Indiana, because he's been vocal about how year after year his name being there on the trade block and the rumor mill and trade deadline and all those things never being dealt, how that dealt and affected his mental health. Now he gets through where it felt like, okay, he's going to be a piece that the Pacers are going to build with to move forward. What is the green pasture that you could say about going to Milwaukee?
It's interesting, right? I mean, you get to play with Giannis, who's a phenomenal player, top 3 in MVP contention, it seems like every single season. But Myles Turner was the longest tenured Pacer, and he made it very clear he wanted to remain in Indiana. His reps have been trying to get a deal done since the Game 7 ending, and it is extremely interesting. Maybe Indiana had an issue with the possible tax, which grew after Tyrese Halliburton's injury, and maybe that was something that they were apprehensive about. But again, I just feel like you kind of, it's a double-edged sword. In Indiana's defense, maybe for them, the tax was not worth it if you don't have Tyrese Halliburton. And to put all of your stock, or put a lot of stock, I should say, in a player that is phenomenal, but will he make the sole difference if Tyrese Halliburton is not on the floor? Because it is expected, unless he has like a freak rehabilitation, he will miss the entire NBA season just due to the timing of when he sustained the injury. So the Pacers are now between a rock and a hard place of having to determine whether or not it is worth keeping Myles Turner without Tyrese Halliburton on the floor. But I've also been on the side of, you want your star player to return to a team that looks very familiar to the team he left. This throws a complete wrench in what the Pacers were doing in the Eastern Conference. Again, still a very deep team. Maybe they weren't going to be a contender next season, but absolutely with how open the Eastern Conference is, still a playoff team. But you take those talents to Milwaukee, you give Giannis the help he desperately needs. Now Damian Lillard's no longer in the picture. You still have Kyle Kuzma, but they brought all those guys back. Things are looking a lot brighter in Milwaukee. And if you're Giannis, you have to be a lot more pleased than you were 24 hours ago.
Yeah, just the span of how things can change that quickly. Now you look at that Bucks roster and you figure, okay, well, now they have their center, Myles Turner, after Brook Lopez leaves, and you need to figure out, okay, what you're going to do at the guard spot. They've made some moves already in the early part of free agency that made it seem like, okay, what will they do? Bobby Portis sticking around, Kevin Porter as well, Gary Trent coming back to Milwaukee, and now you look at this team, Ashley.
Yeah.
Do you like them to do what in the East? What kind of grade right now as we sit here Tuesday morning? Or is it Wednesday? I don't even know. It's Tuesday. How do you feel? That's what free agency does to you.
Prior to this happening, I gave the Milwaukee Bucks a D because they brought guys back, but they didn't really move the needle in any which direction. They just very much stayed the same, which was not good because the same wasn't good. Now, for me, they've jumped to a B. Myles Turner is a franchise caliber center, and you pair him with Giannis. This is going to be fun to watch. Now, obviously, I'm really sad about Dame. We were sitting here when the news broke, and we were definitely taken aback. We knew that obviously the rehabilitation process for Dame was going to be a lengthy one. He's of a particular age, and that does sometimes play a factor in how long it takes you to rehab. But we never really got to see this duo work completely for an entire season. It was one guy or the other not being on the floor, and we got such a small sample size. And maybe, you know, for the Milwaukee Bucks, getting a franchise caliber center was a lot more important than trying to work things out with Damian Lillard or waiting for him to get back on the court. This is going to be extremely interesting. I will say, though, for me, this is a middle-of-the-road playoff team. This is not a team that's going to win anything. This is not a team that's going to even be a top dog in the East. The East is wide open, but there are still teams that are in much better positions to win the whole thing or at least come out of the East, and that's the Knicks, the Cavs, your Orlando Magic look tough. I think we have to watch out for the Atlanta Hawks. I don't think that they're going to be a championship caliber team, but just talking about teams that I put ahead of the Milwaukee Bucks when you talk about the playoff standings, there's a few before I get to Milwaukee.
So Dame Lillard is 34. He'll turn 35 in 2 weeks. Now he hits the market with a torn Achilles, likely will not play at all next year. What's the mark?